good, everyone, and welcome back to Kaya's Commentary Rants, where I give my commentary on a specific topic I wish to discuss. Before we get down to it, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya R. Pennington, and you can follow Kaya's Commentary on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya's Commentary. Also, be sure to hit that follow/subscribe button, and for my YouTube viewers, click the notification bell so you get notified when new videos drop. Now let's kick it into our topic. So, accomplished journalist Maureen Ryan wrote an expose called Burn It Down, and I actually have the book right here. That's how that's looking like. And I actually have two copies because I was going out of town last week. And so the week before, I had ordered it on Amazon. Like, I pre ordered it and hoped that it would get here before I went out of town, and it didn't. And so I went to Barnes and Noble, and I honestly don't know why I didn't think to go to Barnes and Noble in the first place because I was so excited to read or rather ready to read one of the chapters that it discussed. Um, but it is an expose on certain the toxic nature of certain studio execs and producers, directors, what have you, whatnot, as well as the certain toxic working environments of certain TV and film sets. She talked about Lost, she talked about Saturday Night Live, she talked about Sleepy Hollow, just to name a few. Now, about 2 years ago, I did a video entitled Dear Sleepy Hollow, where I discussed my love of the show, but also detailed the epic downfall that it had. And about a few weeks ago, when I was ranting about the lack of appreciation for creativity in Hollywood, I brought up Sleepy Hollow as a potential reboot and the age of reboots, as well as how it can serve as an example in the best and worst of ways. So let's dedicate this video as a continuation, a continuous letter to Sleepy Hollow, as well as a continued rant on the lack of appreciation for creativity in Hollywood. Um, Before we get too into it, I do want to say that when I mentioned the Sleepy Hollow chapter, this is not a spoiler alert look in on the chapter. I'm not trying to get sued, y'all. When I bring up the stuff about Sleepy Hollow, it'll either be stuff that was mentioned in the excerpt article that was published publicly, or things that certain actors have hinted at, as well as what we, the audience, the fandom, saw happening in real time. But the book does also go more in depth on certain things that we, as the audience, saw happening in real time. So definitely go out and buy the book. This is not me reading the entire chapter word for word or giving you a look in on the chapter that may not have been published. I am not trying to get sued. Go out and buy the book. Fair warning, it is a hard read. I myself had to read it in small takes, one chapter here, one chapter there. It's a lot of gross information to absorb all at once. And it's much along the lines of what we have been told about the industry. You know, I said, even though it is a passion, and it very much still is a passion for me to get into this industry, to act, to write, to create, everything I know about the industry is bad. And yeah, it's bad. It is grotesque. Long, grueling hours on sets, racism, sexism, homophobia, physical and mental abuse. It's gross. And I will never understand treating your creatives like crap, the people that are making you money like crap. Honestly, I will never understand treating anyone like crap, because it's not just the creatives being treated like crap on these sets. It's the secretaries, the assistants, the cleaning people. Like, I will never understand getting so big-headed or so power hungry or whatever, what have you, that it's just like, don't look at me, don't talk to me, when you hand me my coffee, do this. Like, and I've honestly heard stories, rumors about certain Black and or POC actors doing that kind of stuff, and it's like, y'all know, if this was way back when, the quote unquote good old days, and y'all were the quote unquote help in the house, that's what y'all would have to do for y'all masters, right? Don't touch their coffee, don't look them directly in the eyes, don't do this, don't do that. So y'all perpetuating that stuff really freaking sucks. Um but yeah, I just will never understand getting so big-headed that you just like, these people are expendable. Like, Oftentimes, a writer, a creative, goes through the oftentimes grueling process to create a well thought out piece of media, or takes the time to learn what makes a character so that they can best bring that character to life, and then actually does it and gets money from it. You get money from it, but then you decide they're expendable. Like, I know power is a powerful thing to have. Power corrupts, but y'all not politicians. Like, y'all might got politician friends, and y'all might certainly can be bought by certain politicians, but y'all don't hold someone's life, someone's rights in your hands like politicians do. Yeah, you hold someone's career in your hands, but these are people making you money. And yeah, you can say vice versa. Oh, well, we're giving them fame. And honestly, you could say that about politicians too. Like, we elected you, we can de-elect you. Anyway, I just bring politicians up because power corrupts. Um, these are making you money. Let's say you are a starting network, right? Because a lot of times this kind of stuff comes from networks. Oh, it's all about our name. People want to see us, our brand, and it's like, no, you can make an independent film. It might not get as much attention as it would if it was under you, but with the right promotion, because I really think, dude. I don't think people truly understand how powerful the progressive public is, and how oftentimes the progressive public can either make or break the sell of a piece of media. So let's say you are a starting out network, you have nothing to offer, and no one knows who or what you are. And then you buy a crap ton of TV shows, but they actually sell, they get really successful. And now you are established, you have all this success under your belt. But take away those successful shows, medias, what do you have? Yeah, you're established now, but if the remaining lineup of your content is trash and the public begins to notice that, they're going to focus less and less on you as a network, right? And so what's either going to happen is A, you're going to get bought out, or B, you're just going to crash and burn as an independent network. Like, I will never understand. Y'all gonna see me looking up to the side because my notes are right here. And promised myself that I was going to stick to my notes because this is an awful long video. I believe it's already going to be like an hour, and I could really go on and on and on about the downfall of the show. So y'all are gonna see me looking off at my notes as I go about. But I will never understand treating your creatives like crap. These are the people making your money. It is frustrating, especially as someone who does still actively want to make it in this industry, but I have to walk on eggshells as far as what I say. Like, and yeah, I try very hard to be aware of the things that I put out on my platform and social media anyway. I don't want people to use what I had said against me. I know I have made at least a few statements that are going to get people hot someday. But if I have too harsh a critique or too different an opinion or just a questioning or inquiry about where my character is going, I might get blacklisted for it. My career might stall and or crash and burn. It's frustrating. Made so more frustrating by the fact that y'all are doing this kind of stuff just to pander to a small-minded demographic. Again, I truly do not understand. I don't think people understand how powerful the progressive public is. You guys have an entire team dedicated to marketing, but again, oftentimes it is about the media and how they receive your show and if they're going to promote it themselves. And unless this small-minded group has like, or people in that small-minded group have like influential power as far as your finances, which very much could happen, but if they don't have that sway, all they can, or any kind of sway, all they can say is, we don't like your diversity, your inclusivity, and we're just not going to watch your show. We're going to bomb your show. But then you have all these other progressive public people telling you, oh, we love the inclusivity, we love the diversity, we're going to keep supporting and shouting out your show. And like it works, because if you actively crash and burn your show for that small-minded group that's not getting what they're wanting, you lose anyway, because you still have this large progressive group telling you, we like this, we want this, we will continue to boast for your show, and you crash and burn it for people who did not even have an influence on your show. Like, you still lose. You still lose. And with that, let's use that as a segue to get into the Sleepy Hollow mess. So Ryan's expose claims that from the jump there was an us against her environment surrounding Nicole Bahari. Apparently, from the jump, they did not. There was resistance to bring in Nicole Bahari, and studio execs or showrunners, whatever, really kind of wanted to make Tom Mison the star of the show. And honestly, you can see it. Yeah, you can certainly see that. Now, as I was doing my research for this video, a thought occurred to me, and I was like, Kaya, didn't you see like some years ago, like recently when all this stuff had happened and the show crashed and burned? Didn't you see like a clip of Myson and Bahari's chemistry read? Was that a fever dream or did you actually see that? No, I actually saw it. You got to scroll down, but I actually saw it. And so that presents itself as Bahari was already locked into the deal, right? One, you had to convince her to stay, but you had to convince both of them to stay because the idea was so wacky. But she was already locked into the deal, right? And so they were originally going to go for an American man, but they couldn't find one to accurately like pull off a revolutionary gent, right? And yes, Tom Mison does embody this version of Ichabod Crane. But I don't know what y'all saw in a beardless Tom Mison. He sold it to y'all so much that y'all were like, that's it. That's the man. He's our star. He's the one true star of this show. No creative project is one person, right? It's the creative process is a collaborative process. Yeah, one person can write something and then take years to like sell it or whatever, but once you get that going, it's a collaborative process. And honestly, even in those early stages, even if you wrote it, it's still kind of like a collaborative process. If you're going to all these workshops and having people actively read your stuff and be like, oh, here's a suggestion, or even just family members, people critiquing somebody, a friend critiquing. It's a collaborative process. No one person is selling the show. And while Tom Mison does embody this version of Ichabod Crane, I'm gonna go ahead and give him his little acting out on that. At the time, the man didn't even have scruff. He was just beardless. He sold it to y'all that well that y'all were like, he's the star. He's the one person people are gonna want to come see out of this entire product. Like, okay, not to take away from my son's acting chops, but okay. Anyway, this show popped off when I was 13, right? And so one of the reasons I was really excited to see it was because it showed a black woman, someone who looked like me, but at the same time did not look like me, in a fantasy role with something to do outside of being there to uplift the white characters, right? So as a kid, there were things that I just didn't notice. However, as a kid, there were things that I just ignored because I enjoyed this show so much. One of the things that I noticed but ignored, Tom Mison's name appearing first in the credits, that always slightly grated me because who was this man? Never heard of him. Again, not to take away from Mison's acting chops, but would it be so wild an assessment to say that he was widely unknown in the States compared to Mison, compared to Bahari at this time? Like, she was acting supporting roles, but she was alongside some pretty heavyweight names occasionally, right? Like you knew her from stuff. You knew her from 42. You knew her from American Violet. She was coming off praise from Shame. Like you knew her from stuff. Is it so wild to say who was this man before this show? Like if we go alphabetically, both her first and last name come before his. If we go off of star power, would Orlando Jones not be the draw? As he probably had an advantage over both of them? I think they were going for a character pool, and the person playing Ichabod Crane, since the namesake was Sleepy Hollow, would be the draw. But this was never an Ichabod Crane from the Fable of Sleepy Hollow kind of story, which I'm going to come back to. Another thing that graded me was the promo photos, specifically for season 1. Rare are the photos where Abby and Crane are side by side. Even rarer are the photos where Abby's in the forefront and Crane's in the background. Often, Crane's always right here and Abby's always right here, or sometimes even like right here, right? Even for those Emmy photos, which did those Emmy photos like really serve a purpose? Because like the backdrop was just clouds. Like what was the vision? Regardless, they ate that photo shoot down. And I've only seen a few photos from that photo shoot, but I've only seen about like 3 total where Myson and Bahari are either side by side or Bahari is in front and Myson is slightly behind her. Often is the case, Myson is up here and Bahari is way back here. Like, that don't make sense. Now, you will find some promo photos where they're like right here, where it kind of looks like they might be side by side, but it's also very clear that Crane is here and Abby is here. And I always found that weird if this was a show selling them as a duo together. Like, another thing that really grated me, and I ain't gonna hold y'all, I ignored for dear life, was that wig from season 1, that episode 1. I liked the character, I liked the storyline, I liked the chemistry that they had together. There was no need for me to focus on the obviously clear, not done edges, so I didn't focus on it. But I did notice it. It was an itch that scratched at me, and it really irked me. Another thing that this article claims, this expose claims, is that allegedly there was like a clear difference in treatment from Myson to Bahari. Allegedly, Myson got his own driver. Bahari had to drive herself, and she had to be up there hours earlier for her hair and makeup to do her hair, because even now, it's I guess it's still pretty rare to find hairstylists that can do black hair in the industry. Only for them to do her hair in such a mediocre way at that, right? And Bahari herself has said that she would like push herself to work long, hard days, presumably so that she wouldn't get labeled even more difficult or look like she wasn't pulling her weight, because that was the rumor about her, right? That she was complicated and difficult. And that spread so much so that allegedly she had to preface all her requests with, "I'm not trying to be difficult." There was even a rumor that she bit a hairstylist. And I wasn't even going to feed into this because I wasn't. But let's get into it because it sounds so ludicrous, right? But I remember seeing this stuff that rumor fly about as the show was airing, and as I completely ignored that because it was so ludicrous. Like, no way. Like, yeah, I bit a bitch, and not only that, I bit the bitch so damn hard that apparently, allegedly, they had to go to the hospital and get a crap ton of stitches and have a 2-week recruit. Yet I didn't get sued or have to settle a lawsuit or hush money. This network already looking to fire me didn't fire me, nor did they get sued or have to settle a lawsuit or hush money. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I know a lot of people who an growing actor on a rising actor on a rising show assaults you and you don't cash out. No, that that I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And when asked for comment about the incident, about said rumor rather, by Ryan, the hairstylist was like, "I prefer not to discuss that. I'm actually working on a book of my own that discusses the toxic working environments of that set." And like, I don't know if you want an NDA, because that's the only reason you would not like just go ahead and clear that rumor up right now. And I'm half of the mind to say screw you and your book, because why would you not clear that up right then and there, unless you were going to turn around and use it as a prop up for time your book release came around. On the other hand, I believe this was a Black and or POC person, and so as a Black and or POC person, I'm sure it does take a lot to express one's truth as far as working on a toxic set, especially on a popular TV show. So on the other hand, if you can talk about this toxic working set, why you couldn't just clear up that rumor? Because you know she didn't bite you. Side eye anyway. The next big reveal to come from this expose is that Nicole Bahari and Tom Myson didn't really like each other or want a whole lot to do with each other from the jump. Now, here's my thing. I gotta hear that directly from them. Like, certainly not to question Ryan, the authenticity of Ryan or her book or the sources. This chapter does heavily rely on sources, but the sources really back up what certain actors have already mentioned or hinted at, as well as what we, the audience, ourselves saw in real time. So certainly not to question them on that. But if we're going to have this conversation, like truly, at some point, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but at some point, we are going to need to hear directly, for full context, directly from them. No flowery language, just straight answers. If we're going to have this conversation at some point, we got to hear it from them. And while Orlando Jones did speak to Ryan on certain things, Ryan did not quote him on Myson and Bahari's working relationship. Now, here's why I got to hear this from them. See, I am of the pettiest breed, the pettiest degree, right? And rumor was Bahari and Myson, their disdain for each other was so strong that they didn't even want to hug. And to avoid that, Crane's signature bow was born. Now, here's the thing. The bow in question, I believe, comes from 1/6, which is the Sin-Eater. And by the end of that episode, they do share their first emotional embrace. But before that, even though these two characters were growing closer and closer, they were still cordial and formal with one another. And it just didn't make sense for Crane to hug Abby at the time. Like, if that's true, great manipulative improvising because it's in Crane's character arc. But at the same time, it's in Crane's character arc to bow at that time. Like, it didn't make sense for him to like have hugged or done anything more than that, because you don't even need to be touching women from his time. Like, it made sense. And I honestly hate how this bow, which was supposed to be this cutesy thing that Crane did as a show of respect for Abby, is now being thrown into this dumpster fire. Two, you telling me these actors whose job it is to manipulate emotion and show the audience, make them believe what isn't there is there and that is real, they disliked each other so much that they couldn't even do their job on camera, in character, and simply hug. Not even a kiss, not no sexual scene, just hug. But they could hug and smooch off camera, out of character, presumably to sell a show, but to sell a show that you, one, weren't sure was going to sell, and two, weren't sure if you wanted to sell. The math ain't mathing right there. No. Then there's the little things, like Myson always pulling out Bahari's chair. Again, I am of the pettiest breed, so if I dislike you so much I can't even do my job, don't touch my chair. Do not pull out my chair. I can pull out my own damn chair. I don't need you to touch my chair. Don't touch anything that has any relation to me. Don't touch me more than necessary. We can stand shoulder to shoulder. Maybe you can sling your shoulder half across my arm, but certainly don't pull it around my waist or anything. Don't touch me. They were hyping each other up a lot more than necessary. Oh, he's kind of dashing. This guy, he's a cool cat. Like, he's just so awesome. She's a treasure. She's awesome. Did you see her sing? Did you see her shoot a gun? Oh my gosh. And if I'm ever lost, I just have to think to myself, keep it 100, keep it Bahari. Like, and then the body language in general, like, obviously I'm not a body language expert. And yes, that man had a girlfriend, now turned wife. And no, we are still not shipping them in real life. But y'all be the judges on that body language expert. Because from my point of view, anyway, if I have such a disdain for my co-star that I can't even do my job, it's just certain things I'm not gonna want to do off camera on the red carpet either. Like, obviously we're actors doing what actors do, and I wouldn't make it obvious that I had a problem with one of my co-stars, but just don't go out your way for me, because I'm certainly not going out my way for you, right? Like, to me, that just feels like one of the many rumors that was spread to make them, but more so her, look difficult to work with. Again, not to question the authenticity of the book, of Ryan, of the sources, because again, they do back up a lot of what we saw or what certain actors hinted at. But that right there, I think for context reasons, if we are going to have this conversation, it's just some things we need to hear from them. Like, certainly by the end of this whole thing, I could certainly see them not being as friendly as they once were. Even at the start of it, like, if they had to be like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm so-and-so, we might have got off on the wrong foot, or just to avoid getting off on the wrong foot, let's go sit here and talk about some things so we can find some common grounds. Like, one of the things I was taught was that, yeah, outside of the oh man, the first read, that's the word I'm looking for. Outside of the first read, definitely get to know your co-stars, just so like you can find common ground, if only for like the work you do, right? So I could certainly see that, but just disdain so much that you couldn't even do your job and touch, hug, like, I gotta hear that from them. Anyway, back to treatment. Another rumor was that Lindy Greenwood was originally brought in to replace Bahari as Abby Mills, as Bahari and a studio exec or a showrunner had a falling out. So that must have sucked, knowing that your potential replacement was right there, only for them to turn around and play your sister. Um, then there are the doubts. A lot of people, including the actors, were not really sure if this show was going to sell. Ryan quotes Jones as saying that Myson and Bahari both, it was an adjustment for both of them to be leads on a show as neither of them had done it before. And that's why I say like they weren't sure if they wanted the show to sell or if it was going to sell, because it was an adjustment for both of them to be leads, plural. And they weren't really getting the help that they need as far as that adjustment goes. Also, the show was a kooky idea, right? As I said, this was not the standard Ichabod Crane, Sleepy Hollow type show, right? At least not the final product. Now we might need to see the script for the real first draft of the script, and maybe that explains why they were just so hardcore to push Ichabod. But this final product was not about Ichabod Crane and his relationship to Katrina Van Tassel and Abraham Brunt. Like, they were plot points to push him into the 21st century. It was about Ichabod being in the 21st century and dealing with that. It was about Abby dealing with the supernatural in her life, Ichabod coming into her life from her POV, right? Like, even in that screen test, there's a little line in there, and it's like after Corbin gets beheaded, and it's talking about how Abby sees death, right? From Abby's POV, we see death in all his glory. Like, this is clearly a show that's Abby was the main character, Ichabod Crane was the goofy fish out of water side character, right? It was about Ichabod Crane being brought to the peasant to bear witness with Abigail Mills, their relationship. Those were the two halves that, when brought together, created a story of those that bore witness. Nothing to do with historian Ichabod Crane and him coming to Sleepy Hollow and being scared to death by Brom after flirting with Katrina, right? Abby and Crane were your story. That was the whole point. And why and how y'all chose to ignore that will forever make my blood boil. Forever. Anyway, Bahari has also said that she and her co-star both got sick at the same time, and he was allowed to go off to England to recover while she got a smokescreen episode to film entitled Mama, which is 2/9, I believe. And by the end of filming that episode, she was disturbingly unwell. Doctors were telling studio exec showrunners that she should not be working, and you worked her anyway. And you know, that episode was always one of my favorites of season 2 because it was Abby Jenny centered, right? And now I'm of two minds. One, I'm of the mind that, well, Bahari pushed herself so much for that episode, you have to like honor that. But also, I'm of the mind that like she pushed herself just to film that, and it feels gross to watch it, right? And I had also wondered if Tom Mison was really sick in that episode, because you would think if Crane got sick, they would make it some comic plot point, but no, they literally shoved Crane aside. So they did have the ability to shove Crane aside. They literally shoved him aside and just brought in Holly to be the white guy, the helpful white guy, which you honestly could have had Irving, but no, you crapped all on Irving last season 2. But that could have been an episode that was Abby, Irving, and Jenny. But not only did you give Mison enough time to hop across the pond to recover, you had her catering and trying to, heal a sick Crane, all the while she was deteriorating. The bowels of hell, the deepest bowels of hell, must be reserved for y'all. Anyway, since we are on the topic, is this where I want to go? Yeah, since we are on the topic of season 2, let's discuss the nature of it. So, Abby is in purgatory. Season 1 ends and Abby is in purgatory. Crane is in a pine box. Jenny is potentially injured on the road. Irving is in jail. Katrina is headless captive, and Henry is the Horseman of War, and also Crane and Katrina's love child. Season 2 kicks up, and we quickly begin to sideline Abby, Frank, and Jenny for white characters, for Crane's family drama, which would have been fine for a few episodes, certainly not an entire season, but for a few episodes. It would have been fine if you balance that out with Crane and Abby and what they're doing, Abby and Jenny and what they're doing, and also Irving and his family and what they are doing. But you didn't. You centered on white characters. You brought in Holly to take away screen time from Jenny, and then you tried to force Abby and Jenny into a love triangle with Holly, like Abby would even want her sister's sloppy seconds. You barely utilized Irving, which, real quick, by far, season 1 was the greatest. But if I had like 3 problems with season 1, it would be 1, Irving giving up his badge and confessing to a crime that he did not commit. I know you were trying to up the ante, all the characters are facing their own problems. What can we do for him? But there had to be another way around that because you threw him in jail and didn't really know how to utilize him, get him out of that. There had to be another way around that that did not involve him giving up his badge or confessing to that crime that still put him in a position that was like, ooh, I don't know. Problem number 2, Henry being Katrina and Crane's love child. Now, could he have had some type of connection to them in the past? Sure. But their child? Nah, because you took a character like Henry Parrish, with a notable actor like John Noble, and then just turn him into a mama's boy or a mama's boy slash mommy issue, daddy issue character. So much so to the point that there's an episode where he's just on the floor crying and sobbing because Moloch scolded him. Season 1, Henry would freaking never like it. Mm, I don't. Looking back, that wasn't the greatest idea. If that's what y'all were gonna do with that, sure. Was it a hell of a plot twist? Yeah, but him being the Horseman of War alone could have served as a really great plot twist. Um, 3, Katrina. Of course, it all comes back to Katrina. She should not have made it as far as she did in the series, right? Like, no offense to Katia Winter. I'm sure being told that you are going to play this badass witch only to instead play the damsel in distress in pretty clothes had to be frustrating. Uh, and I was at first even excited that Team Witness was getting a witch, but not only was she useless, everything she did was counterproductive to the witnesses. Like, she was inadvertently, but almost purposely, I don't know, like helping the bad guys. Like, and then when y'all decide to turn her bad, not only do you throw her into the crazy witch genre, you kill her off an episode later. Um, like, she either should not have made it as far as she did in season 1. Maybe she would have been a helpful ghost to them, not even in purgatory, but just a helpful ghost, kind of like how Grace was. Or she should have realized that everything she does in service to the witnesses is counterproductive, maybe around mid-season finale or even earlier. And so in an act of redemption, she takes on a final mission, and it does indeed serve the witnesses, but it also kills her in the process. Is that cliche? Sure. Is it certainly better than what we got? Yes. Yes, because execs were so hard trying, they were so hard trying to press make Katrina and Ichabod a thing and make it about them, and it just wasn't. You didn't know how to write and execute her character. Not only execute as in execute, I mean just like actually have her doing things. You didn't know how to write and execute her character. Um, and it wasn't about Katrina and Ichabod. It never was. Like, it never was. If you wanted that, you should have made Katrina the second witness, but you didn't. You knew that what this was from the jump. You knew that Crane was going to be paired with another woman. You had to know that they were going to be shipped together because it happens in every freaking story with 2 main characters, more so with male and female characters, but even same-sex characters. You had to know that they were going to be shipped together. Did you know about Bahari's and Myson's like insane chemistry? Because unless I hear from them, that was real. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But did it serve your Katrina Ichabod plot for them to have that great chemistry? No. So should you have focused more on what was actually making your story sell instead of forcing a storyline that was so undesired it affected your ratings and viewerships? Probably. Probably. Uh, And let's talk about the reason for not focusing on Ickaby, because this book makes it sound like, oh, Myson and Bahari didn't want that because of their disdain. Again, I have to hear that from them. Because if Orlando Jones was the captain of SSI Ickaby, Tom Myson was the lieutenant. The way that man was shouting, Ickaby, Ickaby is happening. It's all about Abby. Crane's in love with Abby. So let's talk about what I would say the real reason is as to why we didn't get an Ickaby. Often in these older interviews, you'll hear studio exec showrunners be like, oh, Abby doesn't need to be defined by a man. She doesn't need or want a romantic relationship. Oh, she doesn't have to fall in love with the main male character. I just want y'all to know, because they were using this as like some feminist cry, and it wasn't. And a lot of people do that. But I just want y'all to know, if y'all hear this stuff, especially about two characters and actors who seem to have insane chemistry, it is cop out and gaslighting at its freaking finest. Just know something is happening behind the scenes. Now let's just for a moment ignore or look past the complete obvious independent black woman trope you just established, right? Let's make this about women in general, because this often happens. Not while black and women of color receive this more often, it does happen for women in general. Katniss, Natasha Romanoff, any character, any female character where a love doesn't seem to be a priority right then and there, right? People will use this as this feminist cry, and it's not. Like, it's really not. Women deserve to receive and give love. Characters deserve to receive and give romantic love. It By doing that, you kind of like take away that ability, like that trait. Even LGBTQ people, characters, at some point, romantic love uh, is a thought for most anyway. Um, Now, true, a love triangle or love doesn't always have to be like the main focus or brought in right away. But again, often is the case, it's never the main focus. Now, yeah, some fans can get carried away with their ships, but it's still never the main focus. But again, as if to remind us of the fact that it's not the main focus, you will have people screaming as if it's some feminist cry. Oh, they don't need or want a love um interest, a romantic love interest. Now, I'm of the mind to build a well-rounded character. At some point, romantic love should enter the conversation, the chat, even for LGBTQ plus people, how they feel about receiving and giving romantic love, because that is a human thing to do, right? Does it have to be the focus point? No. Does it have to be the main male character? No. And do we need to break that cycle? Because oftentimes shows would do that, and we should show that men and women can have platonic relationships, especially in film and TV more. Sure, but when you have characters like this where it wouldn't even seem to be like a force, like a it wouldn't seem to be so out of pocket for them to get together, but rather a natural progression of their character arcs. Stop forcing other characters that the fans don't want. Like, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let me find it in my notes. Again, I'm really trying to stay on notes. You're telling the fans that you don't care about what they want, honestly. And do fans always get what they want? No. But again, there was no reason for y'all to not put these two together and actively keep Abby from a relationship in general, unless it's just a sloppy seconds, of course, right? Like, that's not a feminist cry. You are actively denying a character the ability to give and receive romantic love. And I hate when people do that. I really need people to start understanding that is not a feminist cry. Do they have to be defined by that relationship? No. But should at some point from any freaking character, should they receive some type of attention? Yes. A lot of people who grew up without that kind of attention in middle and high school will tell you that it's kind of for the best that they didn't, but also how it kind of messed with their perception of romantic love in such a way. Like, characters deserve the ability to give and receive romantic love. And how y'all gonna sit here and use that as some feminist cry for Abby? She doesn't need to be defined by a man, but then you have a badass witch like Katrina, and not only is she completely useless, can't even do magic, she's defined by both her love for both Abraham and Crane. Like cop out and complete gaslighting at its freaking finest. But yeah, Katrina should not have had a place in this show for as long as she did. And honestly, it would have made more sense for Abby and Jenny to kind of like come into their witch powers, because you cannot tell me they didn't have it with Grace book of journal of spells, their mom's book of African spells. You can't tell me that somewhere in their lineage they didn't have ancestors that were witches, and it would have made sense for them to have that. And that's why the season 2 finale kind of irked me, because why did they not feel that activation awakening spell or whatever it was? I think it was called the awakening spell. Like, why did they not feel that? It would have made sense. No, instead, as a show of Katrina's awesome powers, we get that one episode in season 2 where Crane and Katrina go on a date and then she uses her powers. Like, that had to be the most boring episode, useless episode, didn't serve any freaking plot episode of season 2. God. Anyway, season 2 showed y'all that Ichabod Crane, Tom Meissen was not the draw of this show. Like, y'all season 1 got 13 episodes, season 2 got 18. Y'all had like an entire season plus 5 episodes and still couldn't make Ick Trina or whatever their stupid ship name was a thing. Ichabod Crane, Tom Meissen was not selling the show alone, nor was he selling it with Katrina. Abby Mills, Ichabod Crane, Tom Meissen, Nicole Bahari was the selling point. Even Orlando Jones and Lindy Greenwood, but certainly look back on those interviews with Meissen, Bahari, and Jones and tell me they weren't the selling point together, and that's okay. A lot of people don't want to get stuck in a duo or trio type thing because it is kind of hard to break out of. But it's so funny to me now because when you hear anything about Meissen or even Bahari, even Greenwood, any of these characters, any of these actors, a lot of times it's in relation to Sleepy Hollow or to Nicole Bahari or to like the characters that they played. Like, it's hard to break out of that, but I don't think it would have been so bad for the context of this show to sell it that way, and y'all screwed it up. Um, why? Why did you screw it up? That's my biggest thing. Why? You screwed it up because Meissen wasn't the selling point that y'all wanted it to be. Like, you messed up a consistent bag. You easily could have had a consistent bag for 7 years. This show, at the minimum, could have had a 7-year run. And you screwed that up. All you had to do was treat your black leads like they were human beings and human beings helping to sell your show, because it wasn't just Bahari. Now I don't know where Greenwood stands on the show, and I've heard some not particularly great rumors about her from as far as like shadiness to Bahari, and I'm trying to give her the benefit of doubt as a black woman because this whole thing started because people were throwing and slinging around rumors about a black woman. And even though I'm hearing these rumors from other black creators, I'm still going to try to give her the benefit of the doubt as a black woman. But Jones has spoken about his time on the show, and before Ryan's book, he mentioned how he didn't come back for season 3 because they didn't ask him to. And in the book, they go more in depth as to why he didn't come back and why he dies in a blaze of glory in season 2 and then comes back at the end of it. He to Ryan is, yeah, like I said in the book, but it was clear that he was unappreciated, right? Which doesn't make any sense specifically on him because he was one of the main people interacting with the fandoms and promoting the show, using his own production team and stuff to promote this show. It doesn't make, of all the characters, it doesn't make sense that he is the one that like was just completely just underappreciated. He was helping y'all sell the show. He was interacting with the fans. Was he shouting Ickaby and maybe that got on y'all nerves? Yeah, but he was captain of SSI Ickaby. Deal with it. Y'all had lightning in a bottle. Like, you had lightning in a bottle and you let that bottle shatter for pure tomfoolery. And not just them, apparently, not just showrunners execs, because Bahari has also spoken out and she's hinted to that while it was noticed how she was treated by her co-stars, there was radio silence from them because they were fan favorites, right? My interpretation is that it is a dangerous game to raise concern, especially if a lot of y'all are a bit more unknown than others, and especially if you're a black and or woman of color. And so that's also another reason why I'm trying to give Greenwood the benefit of the doubt. Because on one hand, you do kind of have to watch out for yourself, which sucks because again, the creative process is a collaborative process. If you see something, say something. Uh, but oftentimes you do have to look out for yourself. That being said, Orlando Jones was speaking out so much so that he was high key trolling them, and maybe that's why, maybe that's why he was part of the reason he got the boot. Because you'll see like people would dig up old videos of him like actually making fun of the season 2 premiere. He's like, how does that make sense? What did that do? Like, what? We team it could be over here. Katrina, get out the way. Like, yeah. He took a stand. Surely, like, and to move off Greenwood a bit, surely if he as a black man could take a stand, I did hear he got blacklisted for it, but he still took a stand. Surely if he as a black man can take a stand, you as a white man being told that you are the lead could have took a stand too. Because don't mistake me, although I firmly believe there are some things that we just really do need to hear from them if we're gonna have this conversation. For context, there are certain things that they have to publicly say. Not refusing to publicly take a stand reflects really shitty on you. Like, you had power. There was power in being told that you as a white man were the lead of this show. That more than likely guaranteed that we're not going to fire you. You had a place on that show for as long as you wanted it. So would it really have hurt you in some way, shape, or form to publicly? And obviously, you can just flat out say, "Oh yeah, she's receiving some bad treatment," and we did like obviously you can do that, but in some way, shape, or form, be like, "What is there for Crane in a world without Abby?" Cancellation, nothing. Like Abby is the star of this show. Um, Crane is her sidekick. You've already been saying that publicly. This show, like, it could be we want it could be because you were already saying that. Now be that manipulation, because I'm not placing him above such manipulation. So be that manipulation, or if he genuinely wanted, it could be. It did seem at first anyway. He genuinely wanted it could be. Um, you were shouting it. You can't tell me that in season 2, at the very least, they weren't saying, "Myson, we love you. You are a star." But can you please stop shouting it could be? We're not doing that. And he defied that. You can't tell me they weren't telling him to stop and he continued to do so. Like, he defied that. So surely in some way, shape, or form, you could be like, yeah, she's awesome. She's the star. If she goes, I go. There's no show without Abby. There's no show without Nicole. Like, in some way, shape, or form, would it have hurt you to been like, yeah, I'm the star. You telling me it's all about me and what I want? What I want is certain co-stars to be treated like they're actual human beings, especially the one who was hoping to sell this show, right? Because whether or not he got a big head or not, that man knew who the target audience was, whether if he was just shouting this stuff because he wanted it or because it was a manipulation tactic because he knew that's what the audience wanted to hear. He knew what the audience wanted. He knew who the target audience was. He knew who and what was bringing them in. He knew it was majority black women brought in by Bahari and staying for Ickaby, and he played that up. Again, be it manipulation or because he really wanted it, he played it up. So why screw up that bag? Like, whew, anyway, like, let's even take race out of it for a minute, because you watch all those old Comic-Con videos and you see like black, white, Hispanic, it doesn't matter, what have you. The melting pot of fandoms telling you the thing that they love most about this show was Ickaby, was Abby and Crane together in general, was the diversity of this show that felt so genuine and real that it didn't feel like a gimmick to pull in black viewers only to switch and bait once you got that viewership. Like, these are the people to cater to. Them, not the small-minded demographic who is telling you, oh, we want white characters, we want Ichabod and Katrina, because that demographic can go watch the 1990s film or the cartoon or any adaptation where that's the case, because again, that was never the case for you here. That was never your story here. This wide demographic of people telling you this is what they love about your show, maybe you should keep giving them, even if you don't like give them fully what they want or right away, but maybe you should keep catering to them, because maybe they are the ones making you money and promoting your show, right? Like, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. You lost your way so hard, and for what? Because y'all didn't like the person that was the person y'all wanted to build up as a star wasn't selling as much as the other person. Like, who cares how you getting it? You still getting your money, you still getting your viewership. Like, at the end of the day, you are. And let's be for real here, my son was selling. Granted, mostly as a duo, but like, or in relation to Bahari, but like, his charisma, charm, and all of that, especially as far as him being like Bahari's biggest fan, hyping her up and all of that stuff, that man was selling. And again, I know it's like hard to hear praise about him, but let's not act like a few years ago before all this happened, y'all wasn't saying that man was giving big energy, okay? Like, that man had us duped for years. I'ma go ahead and give him his little acting nod. Like, you didn't have to actively tank your show because the person you wanted to sell the show wasn't selling as much. You didn't have to throw a hissy fit and cry about how you're not racist because you didn't use that word in the house. Like, who even brought up that word? No one was calling y'all racist for not giving us Ickaby because they were saying here like, oh, that demographic is like we're racist, and if we don't give them Ickaby right now, they're gonna tank our show. Y'all didn't have to worry about them taking your show. You tanked the show. No one was calling you racist for not giving us Ickaby. Y'all were just buttholes for that. We're calling you racist because of your treatment of Abby Mills, Nicole Bahari, Frank Irving, Frank Irving, Orlando Jones, and any other black slash POC actor character on that show. Y'all literally mammied Abby. In the year of our Lord 2016, y'all mammied Abby, talking about my job. You brought Ichabod Crane to the present just to partner with this specific person. The entirety of the whole mythos of your show was these two people specifically. And then all of a sudden it was my job was to lift and carry you forward. And now Abby Mills has done what she supposed to do. Like, you mammied her. And let's talk about season 3 with real quick. Cause like how y'all knew how that was gonna end. And y'all knew y'all weren't gonna give us Ickaby, but y'all kept giving us those weird, stupid little innuendos and them living together and having cutesy dinner moments and all this while just not giving us what we wanted. Like, that's why your show tanked. And honestly, y'all giving us Joe and Jenny and thinking we would be satisfied with that swirl, like that's the swirl we would be content with, is a problem in and of itself. Like, were they cute? Sure, but that is not the cream coffee we wanted, and y'all knew that. Y'all knew that. And then y'all tried to actively tank this woman's career for what? For what? Because she left the show y'all wanted her off of since day one? Because, like, how you mess up a show and then try to punish her for it? That makes no sense. And that makes absolutely no sense to me. Y'all think anybody is replaceable. You killed off two of the most likable POC black characters on that show, and then thought that we were gonna be like okay with that. Anybody is replaceable. Replace that audience you just lost. You can't, because not everyone is replaceable. Like, I'm up to Maz. Certain people are replaceable. Those writers are certainly those studio execs are certainly replaceable. But when you have actors and characters like this, they are not replaceable, and not simply because it's a diversity thing. No, they were interesting characters with amazing chemistry with other actors that really clicked, and it flowed. And you messed that up. Replace that audience. You could not. There was no way in the freaking world y'all could tell me y'all had enough ratings, viewership for a season 4. That was done purely out of spite, a giant fu to that former audience. And honestly, Myson and Greenwood staying for it rubbed me the wrong way, to say the least. Like, collect your coin and all of that, but seriously, y'all had to be under contract. And no tea, no shade, but as a light-skinned black woman, bankrupt is what my account would have to say for me to replace a darker skinned black woman's character or a remnants of her character, even though I knew that character was beloved and clicked so well with this like, bankrupt. As a light-skinned black woman, bankrupt is what my account would have to say, but no tea, no shade. Anyway, still had to be under contract, but also rubbed me the one of two things. One, that interview Myson gave right afterwards. Like, I remember watching part of that because I couldn't finish it. It was so awkward to me. I remember watching part of that and I was like, damn, they really using you as a scapegoat. Like, they really thought your pretty face and accent was going to distract somebody. Absolutely lie. What the fuck you mean? It came as a shock to you. You filmed it there, right? Like, you filmed that mess, right? Like, you were back there behind the scenes with her, right? You were not that damn obtuse. Like, And two, both Myson and Greenwood's continued silence. Like, there is no way y'all thought silence was going to save y'all and that this wouldn't eventually come out. Like, I know like Me Too and Time's Up Hollywood came out like maybe around 2017, so after the show had finished wrapping. But that would have been the time for y'all to really start publicly speaking out and supporting Bahari, even on some manipulation type stuff, because there's no way y'all thought silence was gonna keep y'all safe and that this wasn't gonna come out. Um, Much like when the show started, it seems that people continuously underestimate just how hard this fandom was and very much still is writing for Nicole Bahari and Abby Mills. Like, you don't want to talk about the horrible toxic working conditions, fine. But like, why are y'all not publicly uplifting and supporting her? And one could argue, well, they don't have to. That's their right to privacy. No. Mm-mm. 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 Y'all passed up that right. Nope. The moment y'all saw all this going and y'all continue to remain silent, that's aiding and abetting. There's no reason. Even Orlando Jones is sitting here shouting out Miss Juneteenth and all this other stuff. Why couldn't y'all? Now I don't think Myson has a social media, which might be for the best because the way they would light your ass up. But sitting here, but like, did y'all see that Black Mirror episode? Did you see her on Little Fires Everywhere? Okay, Miss Juneteenth. Like, why are y'all not hyping her up? That's what would have saved y'all, not the continued silence. When this broke, that's what would. And obviously, we don't know the conversations that they've had in private. Maybe in private they all good, but the one thing I do notice, and there are very few celebrities I follow on social media. I don't see the point. But Nicole Bahari, Orlando Jones, and Lindy Greenwood I do follow, and they all follow each other, I believe. And so, you like a post or one of them posts, Instagram does that thing where like, oh, this so and so person who also follows them like this too, and they commented this. You will see Orlando Jones sitting there hyping both Bahari and Greenwood up. Like it really would not have been so hard for y'all to speak out. Like especially for one of y'all. Like I know this, I'm not trying to sound like naive and oversimplify things, because this industry is very much a watch out for yourself. So I understand that's a reason to remain quiet, but I would also think that would be a reason to speak out because if it had been you and you'd been isolated and lied on and almost had your career tanked, would you not want someone in your corner? And I want you to remind you, Nicole Bahari was like 20 something when all this went down. She's like 30 something now. I don't want to seem like a creep. Like I just like randomly keep up with her age. I'm not, this is not a stand for Nicole Bahari. Okay. I firmly still believe we don't stand celebrities, but this goes so far beyond Nicole Bahari. I just want to throw that out there. But she was real young. She was younger when this stuff happened. And that sickness took like away 3 years of her life. Like she was just starting in her career. If that had been you, would you not want these people in your corner? Like at some point, is it so out there to say at some point you should take a stand? Like, especially considering the epic backfiring that was the blacklisting of Nicole Bahari. Everyone a part of this show should have had a serious career boost by now, especially Myson and Bahari. And again, not to like sit here and praise him, but like I'm gonna go ahead and get him his acting chops. Instead, a lot of them have been like here and there, here and there. Now, Orlando Jones did have a role in American Gods, a very prominent role, but then he got the same treatment and left that. Like, everyone a part of this show should have had a huge career boost, especially if this show had had 7 seasons, because that would have meant it ended like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Which, side note, it's literally been a decade now. This book put that in perspective for me. It's literally been a decade for me, and I'm still just really angry. When I tell y'all this anger is going nowhere but to my grave. Anyway, um, like everyone a part of this show should have had a serious career boost, and instead it's just here and there, here and there, and now you guys are finally starting to break back out, and that sucks. That sucks because a lot of y'all are really cool actors. I would think that y'all are really decent actors, but here it be. So I'll go ahead and end this, I'm sure, long video by saying, as a fan, it sucks that, and I know this might sound selfish, but hear me out. It sucks that my ideas and scripts or anyone's who had hopes of a Sleepy Hollow reboot with the OG cast are that much less likely to get used because as a fandom, it would have been like that therapeutic healing thing to see it finally come back in the age of reboots with the OG cast. And maybe even for the OG cast, it might have been therapeutic on some level, right? But as much as I would love to see, like I know that clip from Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End where Will goes down with Davy Jones' ship and he comes back rising up out of the water at the helm. I would love to see that happen with Sleepy Hollow, but it's like Orlando Jones at the helm of SSI, Sleepy Hollow SSI. It just ain't happening, Captain. I'm coming to terms with the fact that this show is really well and truly dead. Every day, my Sleepy Hollow dreams, reboot dreams with the OG cast gets gutted. It's just not happening. And as a fan, it sucks. Like if I'm wrong, awesome. Let's get POC black writers in the writers room, but it just doesn't feel like it's happening. And as a fan, you were hoping it would be like it would kind of be therapeutic for a lot of fans, especially when you have so many out there, myself included, who are willing to correct this show and give all these characters. The show itself does deserve better. It might have started off as a kooky idea, but it worked and it deserves better. The actors deserve better. The characters deserve better. And I just don't see it happening. Not in the foreseeable future. Like maybe if we get that reunion with the OG cast, they sit down and talk and discuss, with the end result being a public apology to Nicole Bahari. Maybe. Until that day, I just don't see it happen. So ultimately, I hope that Nicole Bahari begins to flourish, especially if we can get her that marble check as Sue Storm. I hope that she begins to flourish, and that if she hasn't already, she has gotten the apologies that she deserves. Hashtag Abby Mills deserves better. Hashtag Nicole Bahari deserves better. Hashtag Sleepy Hollow deserves better. Sincerely, forever Sleepyhead, forever an Ickaby Sleepyhead, but one that is extremely disgusted with the seemingly continuous, endless revelations about the downfall of this show, this once great show. You had lightning, and all you had to do was stay the course, and you couldn't. You suck. Maybe one day, I'll still throwing it out there. There are so many people, myself included, that would love to write for this show with the OG cast. If it's therapeutic to y'all in some way, shape, or form, and y'all kind of like any idea, hit me up. But no, seriously, I hope this book brings about change in some way, shape, or form. I hope their strikes bring about change in some way, shape, or form. At least enough that y'all see that we are not going to take this anymore. And even if only for the public view, like you make a change. Like when the money stops flowing, as it inevitably will. Yeah. Sincerely, it could be Sleepyhead who dreams have been crushed. With that, that's Kaya's commentary rants. Thanks for listening and watching. If you like this video, be sure to like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the follow/subscribe button. Let me know any of your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I don't care if you disagree. If you disagree, you're racist. I'm just saying it. Like, there's no excuse for the downfall of this show. Like, they let it fall for misogynoir, and if you agree in any way, shape, or form, you suck. But certainly be respectful. Be respectful. Let me know any of your thoughts and opinions on the downfall of this show. With that, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you in the next Kaya's Commentary podcast episode.